My name is Elizabeth Strickland, and this is my speech about phobias. Did you know that nearly 10% of people in the US struggle with some type of phobia, whether it's fear of spiders, heights, or even something less common like peanut butter sticking to the roof of their mouth? At first, some of these fears may sound unusual, even funny, but for those who live with them, phobias can be powerful, overwhelming, and even life-altering. They're not just quirky fears. They can dictate decisions, limit opportunities, and shape entire lifestyles. Understanding phobias is more important than it might seem. They're actually much more common than most people realize, and chances are you know someone who lives with them. Learning how phobias work can help us empathize better with those who struggle. Phobias not only induce fear, but also exert control over people's daily lives, making it incredibly challenging to function normally. Exploring them also gives us a fascinating window into how our minds and bodies react to fear. And along the way, you might even come across some phobias you've never heard of before. I feel especially connected to this topic because I've struggled with a severe phobia myself for over 10 years. Living with it has shown me just how disruptive phobias can be, but it's also motivated me to work with a phobia therapist. Through therapy, I've learned not only coping strategies, but also how professionals study and treat phobias. To prepare for today, I've combined my personal experiences and with reliable research from psychological sources. Phobias can be overwhelming, but by looking at how they're caused, what it's like to live with one, and the treatments that exist, we can better understand both the challenges and the hope that come with them. Today, I'll explain how phobias are caused, what it's like to live with the phobia, and how they can be treated. Phobias don't just appear out of nowhere. They usually develop from a mix of factors such as genetics, past experiences, and environment. First, genetics and family history can play a surprisingly strong role. A study from the National Library of Medicine found that twins are more likely to share the same phobias. This suggests that there may be an inherited vulnerability to certain fears, meaning some of us are predisposed to experience phobias even before life events come into play. Second, traumatic experiences can be powerful triggers. For example, a child who's bitten by a dog may go on to develop cynophobia, a fear of dogs, and carry it into adulthood. Someone who gets trapped in an elevator may start avoiding elevators entirely, reinforcing the fear and making it harder to break. The brain often holds these bad experiences, exaggerating the sense of danger so that the fear continues long after the original threat is gone. Third, phobias can also be learned from our environment. According to Mayo Clinic, if you grow up watching a family member react strongly to something, say, panicking at the sight of spiders, you may learn to respond in the same way. This kind of modeling shows how phobias are not only personal, but also shaped by the people around us. While the causes of phobias explain where they begin, the impact they have on a person's daily life show how serious they can be. Living with a phobia can be exhausting, isolating, and sometimes embarrassing. For me, this is a deeply personal thing. For the past 10 years, I've struggled with emetophobia, which is a severe and intense fear of vomiting. I believe this fear began when I got food poisoning back in the 6th grade, and ever since it's followed me into every stage of life. This phobia creates very real limitations. I avoid trying new foods, I rarely go out to eat, and traveling is always a challenge because I worry about getting sick away from home. While others may not think twice about grabbing dinner with friends or going on a road trip, for me, those situations can trigger a spiral of anxiety. And beyond the daily restrictions, there's also the emotional side. Phobias can create feelings of embarrassment and shame, especially when others dismiss them as irrational or silly. For years, I viewed my phobia as a weakness, something that made me different from everyone else. But over time, I've surrounded myself with people who support me, and that has made a huge difference. Having others respect my fear, even if they don't fully understand it, helps me feel less ashamed and more empowered. Even though phobias can feel overwhelming and limiting, they are not without hope. There are proven ways to manage them, and in many cases, people can regain control over their lives. The good news is phobias can be treated. There are several approaches depending on the individual. One of the most effective approaches is therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, helps people identify negative thought patterns and replace them with healthier ones. Talk therapy provides a safe space to work through fears, while exposure therapy, gradually and safely confronting the source of fear, can sometimes help. However, exposure therapy must be done carefully, since it can actually intensify the phobia if handled too quickly. Medication is another option, though it is not usually the first choice. According to the NHS, doctors rarely prescribe medication directly for phobias, but they may be used to manage anxiety symptoms. These can include antidepressants, tranquilizers, or beta blockers to reduce physical responses like rapid heartbeat and sweating. Alongside professional treatment, self-help strategies can also play a role. Practices like deep breathing, mindfulness, and gradual exposure on your own terms can help manage fear when it strikes. Support groups also provide encouragement and reduce feelings of isolation, reminding people that they're not alone in their struggles. Now that we've looked at the causes, the lived experience, and the treatments for phobia, we can see the full picture of how these fears begin, how they affect people, and how they can be managed. Just as we began by imagining what it feels like to face a phobia, let's end by stepping back and looking at what we've learned. We started by exploring the causes of phobias from genetics and past experiences to environmental influences. Then, we looked at what it's like to live with the phobia, including daily limitations, emotional toll, and social struggles. Finally, we discussed treatments such as therapy, medication, and self-help strategies. Understanding phobias matters because it helps us become more empathetic and supportive towards others. These fears are nothing to be ashamed of, and when we approach them with compassion and awareness, we can help break down the stigma that surrounds them. Phobias may seem like irrational fears, but for those who experience them, they are very real. By learning about where they come from, how they affect people, and the ways they can be treated, we take away some of the mystery and stigma surrounding them. So next time you hear the word phobia, I hope you'll think beyond the fear and remember the very human experience behind it.